my credential as an author is questioned. The first book that I mention usually is Survived, Raw and Edited. Survived, Raw and Edited is my autobiography, and it is my best-selling book. It is not my first book, but it's my best-selling book. I wrote that book really out of what I would say self-therapeutic. So it's more of a therapeutic book for me. It's entertainment to readers. It's insights on my life to readers. But for me personally, it was more like unloading dead weight. For most of you who didn't know, I had a struggled childhood from childhood to adulthood. For me, the pathway wasn't as easy, thus the title Survived. I decided to title it Survived because it's a survival story, but more than anything, I wanted the title to be attracting to people who might be struggling or people who might be searching for hope. And I believe that that particular story is an inspiring story, kind of like a strength-giving story to readers. To be honest, I've always said the people that I would really like my story to be revealed to or inspired are people who probably can't read or don't read. So the ambition is to get Survived into a motion picture. You know, a lot of people would rather sit down and watch a 2-hour film than actually read a 604 pages book. Raw and Edited was applied simply because during the editing phase of the book, the tweaks to perfect the grammars and so on and so forth, I decided to leave it raw as it was originally drafted as a manuscript. So it's partly edited and the next part is as is. So that was the reason why the subtitle became Survived, Raw and Edited. In a nutshell, the story started in Jamaica, where I was born. I think I started the story at about age 8 or age 9, and the story went all the way to the United States of America, where I spent most of my early adult years, and yeah, it concluded in the United States of America. There is a sequel to Survive, Prosperity. Prosperity is unpublished. I don't know why I'm delaying unpublishing the book, but the Prosperity is really the success story after Survive. Prosperity is pretty much, I wouldn't say it's all trail of honey, so to speak, because there were some unfortunate incident that happened after Survive concluded, including like, you know, my godfather passing away and other little dark gray areas, I should say. So Prosperity is a sequel. I won't say too much on it because it's not published as yet. Again, I run my own publishing house, so I could publish it at any time, so it's just kind of like it relies on me. Roy is a children's book that is published. Roy I did with my wife. Well, when I say I did with my wife is an illustrator, so she provided all the artwork and I provided the story. Roy is pretty much, to be honest, Roy was actually written about our son. I just titled him Roy. When our son was a child, he didn't seem to like to write or read. He seemed to wanting to play all the time. So I decided to write a rhymey children's book for him, but title it as it being someone else. And the story is pretty much trying to encourage children, little babies, to share their time equally with learning as much as they can do with playing. So it was pretty much like mom and dad negotiated, if you want to say that, or kind of like talk to this boy Roy and teaching him how to live and how to spend days, and the importance of learning or reading from a book or listening to a story that's being read to him. And at the end of his reading segments, you could still go back to his toys and play. And at the end of the day, mom and dad was proud and they lived happily ever after, something like that, but very rhymey, so it was attracting to children. Pearl, on the other hand, Pearl is another book I done with my wife, another children's book. Again, my wife is the illustrator of that book. She provides the artwork and I provide the wording and the rhyming. Pearl is a little different from Roy, where Pearl is about a little black girl who went to school with mostly white children, and because she was the odd one out, she didn't like her skin color, she didn't like her hair color, and she was miserable. So again, mom and dad tackled the situation by letting Pearl know that she's not odd, she's not ugly, she's beautiful. She needs to look at herself in the light that she is. And mom and dad started to show her different things that she could do with her hair that the other children couldn't do with their hair. And when she started going to school with her hair in different styles and different fashion, now the other children wanted to be like Pearl. So at the end of the day, she found her individual self, her unique beauty, and she no longer wanted to be like other children. So Pearl again is about self-esteem in children. It's about giving them confidence and giving them self-identity to not only realize who they are, but own who they are and be proud of who they are. The next book that I am proud of, I don't write fictions. I'm terrible at writing fiction. So most of my books, 99% of my books are non-fiction. They're real life incidents, not exaggerated, but pretty much as is. So my next book is titled My Only Hope with Panic Attack. My Only Hope with Panic Attack covers an experience that I went through. I suffered 2 years of panic attack. I didn't know what panic attack was. When I went to the doctor at the time I was living in the United Kingdom, it was attributed to two things. The doctor believed that because I just finished Written, Survived, Drawn, and Edited, and it was like a trek back down memory lane, and I must forgive myself, but while I wrote that book for 15 consecutive months, every single day, relentlessly. I would not encourage that to any of my viewers or any of my subscribers or anybody who wants to write a life story, especially if your life story includes a lot of dark patches, and going back down memory lane is very treacherous and one has to be very careful. So the doctor applied that my panic attacks was either because of my relentless work, and at the same time my godfather had passed away, and I really took it to heart. So he was saying it's one of two that triggers it, or both combined that triggered my panic attack. Panic attack, I'm just gonna look at the screen for a second. Panic attack is a condition where a sense of fear overcomes you. A sense of fear overcomes you suddenly for no particular reason. So for example, you would be sitting here at the desk and you would be doing what you do on a daily basis, and out of the clear blue, a thrust of fear, boom, just comes right over you. In the same instance how you would feel afraid if you were crossing the street and a vehicle came out of nowhere and suddenly brake in front of you. It's the very same feeling. You just feel like, whoa, I'm about to die. But what's worse than crossing the street where a vehicle brake is that panic attack lingered for a few seconds or a few minutes. So it's like just imagining that vehicle coming at you and braking, and you're afraid, but it's happening repetitively for 10 seconds to say 3 minutes. That panic attack is a sudden burst of fear. It's a sudden burst of doom. Your heart pace. You just feel like at that moment you're going to die. And the worst thing about panic attack was there was no medication for it. There was no medicine. There was nothing that doctors could offer you. At one point I even thought I was going crazy. And the doctor, I'll never forget what that doctor said to me that put things in perspective. What the doctor had said to me was, first of all, if you're going crazy, you would not think that you're going crazy. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. so it was just that line. He didn't give me an injection. He didn't give me a pill. He didn't give me a prescription. He just gave me that logic, and that kind of like brought me back down to earth. But he did say I had to stop everything that I was doing work-wise and kind of just take a chill pill for as long as possible until my system comes. Because what it was a system breakdown. It was a nervous breakdown, if you want to call it that, where your mind, body just get overwhelmed and crashes, and everything just start misfiring. So I recovered my panic attacks by moving from the UK to Jamaica, where I went to Jamaica for 2 years and did absolutely nothing. I just slept, eat, drink, slept, eat, drink. And after about 24 months, I kind of like felt normal again. And that book, My Only Hope with Panic Attack, I won't explain to you what was my only hope, but once you read the book, you'll understand what or who was my only hope with panic attack. And I did not conclude that book without giving self-help solutions as to what people should or shouldn't do if they're suffering from panic attack, agoraphobia, anxiety, or anything like that. So that's what that book was about. I wrote Poetry Aloud and I wrote Passion for Poetry. Poetry Aloud and Passion for Poetry, they are collective poetry, and that's where I actually started. I actually started my writing in poetry. My first published book was a collective poetry, and also my second published book was collective poetry, because poetry, they are my love. I love rhyming. I love telling a story. That doesn't mean that all poems has to rhyme. It's just that my style of writing, I think it is more creative or more unique when you could tell a story or express feelings while rhyming at the same time. So I've always written in that fashion. So Poetry Aloud and Passion for Poetry are two more poetry books. For writers out there, I must say that poetry is not the biggest seller on the market. So if you're gonna do poetry books, you have to make sure that it's something that you're passionate about and you're not really doing it for monetary reward, because not a lot of people buys poetry as much as a lot of people love to read it. I know that sounds unfair, but that is actually the truth when it comes to the literature market. Confession of an Undertaker. Confession of an Undertaker is the first and only book in my collections of book that is fiction based on reality. Meaning, I must say it's the most difficult book that I have to date written, because I'm writing a story based on information that was given to me. So first of all, Confession of an Undertaker is based in the 1940s Europe. I wasn't even born yet. So the information that I'm writing about were given to me by people who were alive in that time. For example, my wife's mother. So Confession of an Undertaker is pretty much about an undertaker who exploited the Depression era, or the war back then, you know. So the whole idea was him and his wife. I'm not so sure if I should say everything about this book because it's yet to be released. So, and even though my manuscripts are copyrighted, so I won't say too much. So Confession of an Undertaker is my one and only book which is fiction based on reality. It was a difficult write for me because I don't do fiction. I like to know exactly what I'm talking about, and when I know what I'm talking about, it's a very easy write. My other book, I describe it as being unique in itself because I believe of all the books that I've written, it is my most controversial book. This book is titled Men, the Dog in Us. The notion men are dogs is spawned from the renowned trait in men where infidelity is concerned. Most men are used to getting in trouble because of their private parts. So in other words, most men can't seem to keep it in their pants, whether they have a partner or a marital spouse. Most men always stray, and if you go into history, it's been the downfall of so many men. So in the book, I'm pretty much saying my research and my discovery suggests that most men are dogs as much as some women are bitches. But I deliberately put it like that because I wanted people to think that I was actually being vulgar by using the word bitches, but I was not being vulgar, you know. I was using it in its respectful term. The opposite sex of a dog is a bitch. So, but because of the derogatory slang that I've taken over the definition of the word bitch, I figured that would draw some attention. However, I'll just give you guys a sneak peek that in that book, I'm not saying all women are bitches or all women possess the traits of men, and I'm not saying all men possess the traits of dogs. What I'm saying in the book is that most men possess the traits of dogs, and not equally, the scale is very much unbalanced, because when it comes to the female, it's only a small few that possess the traits of dogs and men. So that book is gonna let some of my viewers and some of my readership, well, all of my readership, understand from my point of view why men cheat. Yes, that is the bottom line. My book is pretty much explaining why do men cheat, why do men do what they do. We won't say too much about that book. Which other book should I cover? Oh, the next book I'm going to cover is a book titled 30 to 120. This is a Philadelphia story. Again, this is life experience, my personal life experience in Philadelphia. It exposes an unfortunate experience that I had in the United States of America when I was a very young man in respect of the legal system. I don't know about now, but at the time, Philadelphia was a very corrupt city. It was a very corrupt city where well, I would say the state of Pennsylvania was corrupt. I wouldn't say the whole state, but the state of Pennsylvania was corrupt because it was at a time when prison for profits was a big thing. It means you would try to get as much people incarcerated, as much people in prison as possible for financial gains to individual investors in their pockets. So back then they didn't really care if someone was guilty or someone was innocent. As long as we get someone on a bed, that was pretty much it. And I lived in the city of Philadelphia where you had corrupt cops that conspired with judges and testimonies versus alleged substantial evidence would send mostly black people and Hispanic people to prison for petty or no crimes at all. However, I don't know if that's still the case today, because many years ago, about 10 years ago, I heard that, I believe when the mayor changed in Philadelphia, there was a crackdown and a lot of these police officers were arrested and charged and sent to prison and dismissed from the police force. I believe some judges lost their seat on the chair. So 30 to 120, pretty much my experience and my viewpoint as to the corruption that was going on in Philadelphia and false incarceration, or illegal incarceration. Can't say false incarceration. The incarcerations are real, but illegal incarceration that ruined families and I would say kill the confidence of young men, and just kind of like marred them, scarred them for quite a few years of their lives. I say quite a few years because, like I say, most of these people that were incarcerated under these corrupt scheme, to my understanding, they were released from prison and their records were expunged, etc., etc. Yeah, but there are a lot more books that I've written, but I think we've covered enough. I'm a writer at heart. I love to express myself in writing. I love books. I love books so much that after publishing my first or second book, I decided to become a book publisher, and I became a book publisher in 2005. I was 34 years old when I became a book publisher, and I've never looked back since. All my work, everything that I've done has to do with writing of some sort, literature of some sort, even though paper itself is being eradicated now, but it doesn't stop me from writing.